So this week, something unexpected happened. I went to see The Devil Wears Prada and I was surprised by the contents of the movie. Not because it's not high fashion and glitz and glam like we expected it to be, but actually it addresses a lot of real world problems, especially within the job market at the moment, and I wanted to react to it. So if you're interested in hearing more about this with me, Pira, an ex-recruiter and current hiring manager within the tech industry, please do subscribe for more content like this, and please do continue watching for more. And a word of warning, there will be some spoilers within this video, so if you haven't watched it, please go do watch the movie and then come back. Most people think that The Devil Wears Prada is about a difficult boss and how she manages a fashion industry, and that is true. This movie has focused on layoffs, AI, restructuring businesses, and it also addresses how big tech is really seeping into every part of our reality and our working world. Once you realize this, you see that actually a lot of the narrative is around being a playbook for life and your career rather than just a movie. So let's start with one of the most controversial characters, Miranda. She is still that very much controversial, still pig-headed, arrogant, demanding and sharp. Actually, we see her a lot more careful. She's a lot more beholden to what her leadership says. She doesn't have sole control as she once did 20 odd years ago. You can really start seeing how she's starting to think more carefully about how she gives feedback, what she says, how she addresses folks, even down to details like getting folks to put her coat away. She's now having to do that herself. And whilst it's a small move, what it does show is the change in how leadership are now treating junior members of staff and middle management. Now, I'm not trying to say that it's all a walk in a park for a lot of people's working lives, but what it is showing that this political correctness that people speak about is starting to seep into even the toughest of industries. Workplaces are starting to be a bit more sensitive to what HR will say, their PR, inclusivity, and the tone at which they address their staff, especially within the Western world. So what I would say is feedback has become a lot more subtle, and even though within The Devil Wears Prada, it's still in your face.
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
In reality, the way that it's starting to translate in the real world is that sometimes feedback is lost between words or through actions. So it's super important within the working world that you yourself are able to decipher what is being asked of you and what is critical feedback and how it is that you can improve. If you are picking up on dissatisfaction in your work, to say, how can I improve this? Or what does good look like? Asking questions like this show management that you are interested in having a constructive conversation about your work and that you are willing to change and amend things to be able to suit their needs and wants. So always keep your eyes and ears peeled to see how it is that you can always continue to improve your work, because these folks are the ones that leadership will find are useful and keen to promote, because they realize that you can be adaptable, especially in the early part of your career or within the middle management side of things. They're looking to nurture and groom their future leaders. Now let's talk about networking. This is a huge topic on this channel, and it's something that I strongly encourage folks to do. And what we see here, and this is a big spoiler, is that Andy is asked back to Runway, not because she's applied, but we find at the end of the film, Nigel has had a big hand in encouraging the board to get her to come back. So what we see here is your network is your net worth. And we also see this play out with one of Andy's best friends. As soon as she's being asked to lay off, although it's not as prestigious, she asks Andy to do some copywriting for her independent brand. So what we see here is that actually when you're in a pinch, people within your network will step up. But it's so important that they understand what it is that you're looking for and are able to know that you're even on the market. Like I always say, opportunities come from networks, relationships, and people mentioning your name even when you're not in the room. So it's super important that you authentically build these relationships by doing good work, by making sure that your work is visible when you're working with other teams, so that when you're in a pinch, they're able to advocate for you. Another theme that I've touched on in a previous video is around redundancies. Andy's announcement of her redundancy was super dramatic. She was in an award show and she announces it whilst making her speech. What it allowed for is the general public, including Nigel, a colleague of her, to know that she was available and on the market. And although it wasn't a publicly advertised role, what Nigel was able to do is find a slot for her and a need within the business. This is what I mean when I say that actually businesses are so fast moving, they are working at such a speed that they're not even in a place to put a job advertisement out or even really articulate a need until they see the candidate. So this is what I mean about roles being shaped around your strengths and your skill sets. When people are able to know that you're available, they are then more keen to act, to advocate for you, to find you a position. And it goes back to, if you don't tell people that you need help, they won't be able to assist you. Silence doesn't protect you anymore, it just makes you invisible. So it's super important that you do advocate for yourself. And as the saying goes, closed mouths don't get fed. There's also a subtle moment that I loved in the movie where, unknowingly, that Nigel has helped, Andy is able to pay the favour forward for Nigel's hard work and what I can only describe as his godmothering nature. When Miranda is in a pinch and she needs to save her company, but she also needs to make a speech addressing guests that have attended for her show, Andy is able to advocate for Nigel to say, actually, this is a moment for Nigel to be able to step up and represent the company and that he is a safe pair of hands. What Andy in that moment is able to show subtly to Miranda is that she's taken Nigel for granted. Now, these are the type of people that you want advocating for you when you're not in those rooms and in those spaces, especially if you are someone that struggles to naturally advocate for yourself. It also shows actually what Nigel's greatest problem is. He actually says in the movie he doesn't want to be seen as a leech and someone who's constantly asking Miranda for things. He hopes his talent can naturally speak for itself. But again, it's because he's silent about this that he's not able to get the promotion as quickly as he deserves and that he wants. So it's so important that whilst you're building your network to support you, you're also able to articulate what your wants and needs are from a business perspective. And what the movie does really well there is shows how there's genuine warmth and authenticity in Nigel and Andy's relationship. But what they're able to do is leverage this relationship to be able to advocate for one another in a business setting, that they are helping each other in a non-transactional way because of the quality of each other's work, but also the long-standing relationship and trust they've built throughout the years. The other thing that I think the movie did really well is talk about visibility, not just visibility internally about what you're doing within your organization. Of course, Runway is a magazine, so they're putting content out there naturally into the world. But what you see is that Andy and Miranda both really suffer at the start of being able to take on this digital transformation. So they're not able to really showcase their work to the market as they want. What we realize is that it's super important to have a digital portfolio of all your work. Again, Andy being able to win an award, making sure there's press coverage during that process meant that her work was recognised by a respectable body. By having all these awards and recognitions within your industry, you're able to showcase that your talent is recognised not only internally, but also externally. And it also gives you that halo effect that we always mention in this channel to advocate for your skills. One of the other major themes, and I would say a main character in this movie, is around the tech industries and the tech billionaires and how they are influencing the world around us. Even a gate-kept industry like fashion, where it was taste-driven and it was said that money couldn't buy you an in, is now being transformed into the influence by tech entrepreneurs. Whether it's Benji Barnes, who I believe is a nod to Jeff Bezos, or whether it's Sasha, played by Lucy Liu, they are both able to successfully leverage their platforms, their influence, and most of all their capital to be able to bid and at points successfully for Runway. And so it really starts to show that actually tech is seeping in to every part of our life, whether it's at the top to be able to say, hey, even if I don't have the taste to be able to be involved in this industry, I'll just buy it out, a bit like Elon Musk did with Twitter, now X. So what you need to be aware of is the tech players within the industries that we operate in, whether that's Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon. Be really competent with some of the hot skills that are important to their companies, because eventually when these organizations get bought out, they will be able to transfer you into different departments will be able to showcase your transferability. You see Andy and Miranda suffering with is the media market. So important that you understand search engine optimization and make sure that the right eyeballs are on your writing. And you can start off small. If you have a blog or a vlog, make sure that you're thinking about SEO and how it is that you can market your own work. And then you can transfer those very skills into a company or an organization so that you're not frozen out or seen as someone that can't advance the company. What you need to understand is AI, data, cloud is everywhere. So it's so important that you start upskilling yourself, whether it be 1 hour a week or 2 hours a month, to ensure that you are seen as someone who is able to comfortably work in that space. And the other thing that was really interesting is how art mirrors reality. We now know that Anna Wintour at a time was seen as the pinnacle of taste and that you couldn't ever buy your way into her network. What we see is now with the Bezoses, who are now partly funding the Met Gala, Anna Wintour chauffeuring around Lauren Sanchez, who is not known for her fashion prowess, around to the different shows and the different venues. So we can really see that actually at the top, influence can be bought. And this is why your network and your skill set is so important, so that you're able to transfer yourself from industry to industry or from job to job. Now, there were some unrealistic parts of the movie, the high fashion. Most people wouldn't be able to afford the closet that these folks do. But as we saw throughout the movie, a lot of the time these clothes were borrowed. Still a stronghold by these big brands, but actually people going out and buying them, a bit like in the current market, isn't as frequent or isn't as desirable as it once was. Also, working as a management consultant, every time we come into an organization, we're not always trying to minimize the cost by firing a whole bunch of people. A lot of the times we're coming in to look at growth in new markets or how technology can be better used within an organization. So I would say that when management consultants come in, not to always be worried that you are going to be laid off or made redundant. Also, one of the things I did find interesting was when Andy's assistant goes in to record Miranda's meeting with the management consultancy. This would be highly illegal. So there not being any repercussions for this, I find super worrying. And also with Andy meddling with who is to buy a runway is also one of those things that would be highly, highly frowned upon within an organization, especially someone as junior as Andy coming back into runway. So they were some of the more unrealistic elements that I found. But again, it's dramatized, it's a film. I understand they need to make the protagonist of the movie super interesting. There were also some interesting topics around Andy freezing her eggs, finding her dating partner a bit later. So yes, the film is very dramatized, and some of these things you wouldn't be able to do in the real world. But what it does show is the job market is changing rapidly, and particularly the influence of tech within our world is super, super high. So what I would say is that it's a dramatic film. So lots of things are dramatized and not based on reality. But what it does do a good job is showcase that actually the world of work is changing and tech is having a big influence. And if you're not adaptable, your power base starts to wane, especially because leadership from a board level or stakeholders want to really see that you're able to remain relevant. What I do find interesting though is that it's Andy's long content which initially gets Sasha, one of the tech entrepreneurs who ends up buying out Runway, interested in speaking to her. So what I would say is having the skill to have nuanced conversation and putting out long content eventually in the long run does win, especially with those folks who are at that leadership exec level. You really want to be able to show that you're able to critically think and be able to have nuanced conversations. So whilst all of these metrics around short content and reels are super important and you're able to leverage showcasing your work in that quick and happening way, maintain some sort of long content work, whether that's YouTube, Substack, LinkedIn, where you're writing critically about an area of interest or showcasing your work so that you're able to then cater to the different markets, the leadership folks, so that you're able to operate at that C-suite level, but also that shorter content so that you're appealing to the masses, and then the middle management who are more likely to help you in your day-to-day hiring. The main takeaway from this movie is that your career is built on visibility, on relationships and adaptability, because the people that succeed now aren't just the most qualified or the most successful, they're the ones that have the biggest reach or the most saturated reach within even a small audience that they do have. As you know, we love a homework section on this channel. So what I would encourage you to do is create 3 pieces of content that is in short form to showcase your work, whether that be on LinkedIn, Instagram or TikTok, and then 3 pieces of content in the next 2 months as it pertains to Instagram, Meta, Facebook, and short content at large, and also create 3 pieces of long form content to showcase your work, whether that be on LinkedIn, YouTube or Substack, and do that in the next 2 months. So altogether you'll have 6 pieces of content to really start having an online portfolio of your amazing work. If you found this video interesting or entertaining, please do subscribe and please do share it with a friend or family member that might find this useful or is a huge fan of The Devil Wears Prada and wants to have a bit more of a cerebral conversation around some of the deeper themes that were addressed in the movie. I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you on the next one.